Watching Conversationality, a bi-weekly show brought to you by Optionality, your community exploring the now of work. Hi all. Happy Thursday. Jory Jardins here with me, Elisa Camahort Page.
Hello. And it's Women's History Month. So we thought, although we often feature amazing women, we thought today we're doing this at a different time. And because we're both getting ready to go out of town, Jory's going to South by Southwest. So she's going to be a woman in the middle of that tech focused maelstrom. I'm going to a different event and heading out. So we just decided to do it earlier. And the idea we had was just to do a really quick conversationality today and talk about 3 women we think you should follow right now, whether on their Substack or their socials or whatever it is, and talk about why. So, and I have a feeling Jory and I will probably come up with very different people. But let's find out. Jory, who's your first person?
Well, my first one is one that we will be introducing again to the Optionality community later this month, Carrie Kirpin.
Yes.
Of the Whisper Group. So just a little bit of intro on Carrie. Carrie, Elisa, and I share a common thread. We are female founders who exited our companies. And after Carrie exited, she realized that there was hardly anyone to turn to while she was in that process of trying to exit. A lot of people want to advise you, but really they want to advise you when the going is good. They don't always want to advise you when it's not so good. And Carrie had a great exit, but she realized there were very few resources and people she could turn to who truly understood what she was going through as a female founder. And so she founded the Whisper Group after her exit as a way of convening others who have gone through this so that we could advise other founders in our future. And it really resonated for me because as a founder, I felt that same way after when we had our exit. And a lot of the work that I've been doing, I don't just work with female founders, but I do seek out female founders to advise because my feeling was we need to help each other. There's just not enough support. And you really don't have a lot of, we had a lot of male resources, right? And sometimes there are differences in the way that we view our exits, view our company growth, how we want to build our companies. And I think having more women, accomplished women in the mix could actually help us grow more sustainably, but also more authentically and in a way that we want to grow our companies. So that was my first one.
Well, you bring up that authentically, and something I was really thinking about after our conversation last time about how men are just as likely to have imposter syndrome and they're just as likely to have some of the same issues we have, but it's not talked about. I really think that shows up so much in the discussion about exits, where it is the only 2 people I've ever heard talking about how, you know what, our exit wasn't life-changing. We're happy to do it, but like didn't change my life, wasn't like the biggest, best thing ever. We're women. But I know men who had similar kinds of exits. And I know that thinking is ingrained in my own head too, which is that, you gotta like never let them see you sweat and never let them see you admit that your exit wasn't maybe what you dreamed of. And so I think it really sets people up. And sets people up for a lot of feelings later because, that there is that whole expectations versus reality thing, and the expectations that get set. I think a lot of people could avoid some emotional repercussions if they walked in with clearer eyes. And I do also think, to your point, I do also think women founders, there are a lot of subconscious things that I think affect women and their valuations and their exits. I'm not saying anyone's intentionally, thinking this way, but I do think women have different experiences and are looked at differently. And so I think it's great. So I'm really excited to talk to her later this month. She's in for this month's webinar. We're going to talk about building what it's like to build platforms for women when women are not a monolith. and
Yes.
women want different things and need different things. And yet, you're trying to build something for women. So Carrie is building her current company for women. Of course, we built Blog Her for women. And, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, which is 2 weeks from yesterday on, that makes it the 19th at noon Pacific. So I'll put the RSVP link in the show notes. It's already live. You can sign up already, but we still need to put the graphic together to do some of the normal promotion.
Yes.
So thanks for that. That's a great one and a great, great topic that I can't wait to explore more. My first person is probably the most traditional of my three, and that's Dr. Angela Jackson. She has a new book out, and that's how I knew who she was already because we were in a networking, we kind of overlapped briefly in a networking group I used to be in. She is a professor at Harvard. She wrote a book called The Win-Win Workplace. And, a lot of there's so much conversation about DEI right now and the pushback on DEI. And so much of the conversation is about what the data say. And a lot of times we share that famous stat, only 2% of venture dollars go to women, or only this many women are in the C-suite or in the Fortune 500 boardroom. And a lot of times, and like even when I think back to Lean In, so much of that book was about data, trying to show, trying to validate in a kind of macro quantitative way why it was good to have diversified workforces. And Angela's book takes a slightly different tack, which is it's super positively focused. It's super about workplace culture, putting employees first, really caring about their individualized needs. I mentioned her in a couple of conversationalities ago about one of her examples. And so it's all case study based. So it's companies who are willing to talk about what they did and what the results were and what the stumbles were along the way. And that really reminded me of when we used to do Blog Her Business, and we wanted to do case studies, and we would only do them if there was someone from the company, someone from the agency, if they were involved, and someone who was a user or customer or influencer, someone. So you got like this full picture, and it wasn't just someone putting out a press release. And so I feel like her book kind of takes that on and shows you it in action, shows you specific employee responses that specific companies got and how they worked through that. Again, because employees aren't a monolith either, right? They need and want different things. And so it's Dr. Angela Jackson. The book is The Win-Win Workplace. I'll put her info in the show notes as well. But I just think it's a really interesting but positively focused conversation. And so much of the conversation right now is very full of angst. So I like that she has that kind of positive spin on it, and the case studies that are sort of authentic and real and show you the ups and downs. So that's my first. Who's your second?
My second is Jan Kang, who founded, I know it by WGCN. Now, I am not a lawyer. It's the Women's General Counsel Network.
Okay.
I am not a lawyer, but I know a lot of lawyers. And Jan is a lawyer. And she wanted to have a group because being a general counsel in a big company, she experienced certain things that came up all the time. And she wanted to have a network of people that she could share best practices with. Other lawyers, other people who were also general counsels in their companies and who were women. So she founded WGCN, gosh, I want to say it was 10 or 15 years ago. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact number of years, but it has grown into this enormous community. They have an annual conference. This year, Ketanji Brown Jackson is going to be one of the firesides at her event.
Nice.
And I know about this because Jan, maybe it was this time last year, it said to me, I really want her at our event. And she asked for some support because, we've had to ask people to come to Blog Her. We've done this before. I'm like, oh, let me help you write something, a request. And she already had it down. I didn't do much, but what she wrote clearly resonated. She doesn't justice Brown Jackson does not do this very commonly, from what I understand. She does
She
not do a
does
lot
have
of
a book out. I mean, she released her book, and
she does have a book out.
I just have to
Yeah.
brag that my co-author Jamia on my book, Jamia is her editor at Penguin Random
Oh
House.
my gosh, that is a
Yeah,
big one. Okay, that is a
isn't
that
that
is
exciting?
right. Yes. So, so I wanted just to give Jan a shout out because she is, I mean, truly, this is the organization. If you're a female general counsel and you don't know about WGCN, you should. And I think they've just helped to establish, just like, we thought it was so necessary to build best practices around blogging. They are building best
Yeah,
practices around legal. And there's so many issues that they are grappling with, right? And it's nice to know that there's an organization that has their backs, because very often I'm sure that there are winds that kind of force them to think in, the CEO wants this, but really I need to grapple with, with the rest of this company, not just with the
yeah,
headwinds that I'm getting from the boss. So
yeah.
anyway, that was my second one. Congrats to Jan and to
That's
WGCN.
great.
I wish that I was a lawyer so I could go. Right?
That's great. Um, so my second one sort of kept on with the theme about positive, like, because there's a lot of angst and uncertainty in all my spaces, both in real life and online. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of fear, um, anger, anxiety. I see it all around me. And so, I talk a lot about politics in my social spaces online. And right now, I'm doing most of that on Threads. I'm trying to get more into Blue Sky, but right now I'm doing most of it on Threads. And there's a lot, like, you can easily get overwhelmed by the freaking out that is happening. And so there's one woman, her name is Ariella Elm. I don't know her personally. She has a Substack, and she's ariella.elm on social, and that's Ariella, Ariella .elm, like the tree. And what I love about what she does is she's very committed to every day posting wins, posting what actions people are taking, posting good news. She's just trying to say, okay, it's really hard. People need positive motivation, not just negative motivation. And people need to see movement. If they're motivated and they're working on something, trying to make change, you need to see incremental steps as valuable. And I think sometimes the general ideological group of which I'm a part, we tend to be maybe a little all or nothing in our thinking. And like, if it's not perfect, it's a failure. If we don't get everything we want, we didn't get anything we want. I'm just saying, I see it in myself and I see it in others. And she is very much about, here are these incremental steps we made. Here are these incremental wins we made. Here are here are the people doing good work. That's not all she posts, but I actually look forward to those posts every day. It just helps to know that, excuse me, it just helps to know that good stuff is happening. People are activating. If you're worried and afraid and angry, like, she's just trying to say, okay, but you're not alone. And lots of people are working together on the things you care about. So I never knew who she was till just a couple of months ago. But now she's like, where's her wins post? Where's her good things post? I need that. So Ariella Elm, of course, I'll share the info. And she has a Substack as well.
Love it. Cool.
Yes. Okay. Who's your next one?
All right, my third one. So this weekend, I get the most inspiration on LinkedIn over the weekend because I'm not doing it for work. I'm just kind of reading and things attract me. And there was a post that attracted me and many, many, many others by a woman named Andrea Muhammad. And it was in reaction to the very the nastiness that I think President Zelensky had experienced in the White House. And she
Yeah.
was commenting that it triggered her as a woman in business and a woman in tech, because the experience that she saw, what was happening, just the gaslighting, the shutting down, the almost like the physical, like the touching of, it was amazing how people responded in like to this post. She was saying that it reminded her of what she experienced as a woman in tech.
Mm.
Like, hey, you've done a
think I
great
might
job.
have
But there you go. We're no more. We're good. I'm sorry. I can't take it. I can't grow you anymore. It's almost like you're just too good. I can't. There's nowhere for you to go here anymore. And she talks about how she experienced that talk and watching the video kind of brought that all up again. And then she had a really wonderful sort of processing of that and how it's helped her to see how she really wants to be in the world and have her career in the world. And of course, it caused me to go and look at her profile, and I saw that she is running a company helping women in STEM called Quantum Bloom. So it's about enriching and engaging them and helping them to navigate in this area as well. So once again, here's someone who said, wow, I don't like how that worked for me.
Mm.
I don't think I need to stick around in this environment where my work is not going to yield what it should. And I'm going to help others navigate this space. So very similar to Carrie in Mission, but for
Yeah.
women in STEM. So interestingly, I will be chatting with Andrea later because I would love for her to show up at our webinar as well. And she's interested. So we are going to
Oh,
talk more, and I'm
great.
going to hear more about Quantum Bloom and how she's working to enrich young women in STEM careers.
Great. Did you share that post on LinkedIn?
I did.
Yeah, once you started talking about it, I'm like, oh, I remember that. I remember that, and I remember like the whole, yeah. That's all I'll say. Yeah, that post resonated with me too.
All the feels. I was like,
Yeah.
I was
Um.
in the room.
Yes. So my third one is I'm off the positive train and now I'm on the snarky train, but so funny. It's a woman named her real name is Claire Brown. That's Clare. Her handle in most places is Clarabelle Talks, and I think TOKS. So I think she has a TikTok, and I think perhaps her name was she created for TikTok. I think some of you will know who I'm talking about once I bring her up. So she she reverses the gender on everything. So, I was trying to, let me see, did I highlight one of her things that she had today just to give you an example? Um,
I have to see
so,
this.
oh, yeah. Choosing, so this is one of her threads posts from this week. Choosing to stay home, be a loving husband, and raise children is a noble calling. Don't let anyone look down on you for this. The world doesn't need more boy boss career males. It needs dedicated goddess exalting males who are caretakers of the home. And so she just does those on her own. But then also when she responds to guys who are saying super sexist or misogynistic things, and she'll say, nobody likes a nag, honey, or you're really being so emotional. You should really try, not to be so emotional about things. And she'll just do stuff like that. She's also like, I just downloaded, I'm going away for a book weekend after my event this week with friends, and we're going to read all day and like have dinner and talk about books at night. Oh, it should be fun. Anyway, I just downloaded one of her books, which is, I believe, fiction. So I think she's also an author, and she like writes, but this is just her Clarabelle Talks. She does videos on TikTok. She's on Threads. She's on all the places, and she's just funny. I mean, it's silly, but it's snarky and it's just fun. I kind of feel about her the same way I feel about. Have you ever followed the New York Times Pitch Bot? Do you know
Oh
what I'm
yeah.
talking about?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, the New York Times Pitch Bot, for this is just a bonus one, takes it just makes it's like the Onion sort of, but specifically trying to speak these parody headlines in the voice of the very serious New York Times. And it's amazing how often it seems real. Like it seems like, yeah, that is totally a headline the New York Times would do. And sometimes their parodies come true, sadly. So that's what she kind of reminds me of. It's just sometimes it's like, oh, that just rings so true that someone would say the exact opposite of that. And so Clarabelle Talks is my third. But also she's an author, and so I'll put a link to her book and support her writing, which I just downloaded. So yeah, so that's my 3 women plus the bonus. You got your 3, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We hooked it up.
Excellent. So that's it for today for Conversationality. Hope we introduced you to some new cool people. As we said, our webinar in 2 weeks, we'll be talking to a couple of people we just talked about, I think. And until then, we'll see you on the Optionality at optionality.life. Come
Yes.
check us out.
If you're going to
All right.
be in Austin this weekend, hit me up.
That's right. All right. Bye.
Bye.